Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. A lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the napkin math model for Tesla Robotaxi and how it takes Tesla stock to $40,000 a share or more. We're going to cover that in a minute. First, I'm going to address a question from Night Panther, but we'll get into that. Are you ready? Let's go. Oh, uh-oh. So Night Panther asked this question. People who are supporters of this channel on Locals can ask questions during the live streams, during the Sunday live stream. So please consider supporting the channel on Locals. And, you can contribute in the chat. You can comment on posts in Locals. And you can see some specific content that's only for local supporters. Similar content available to Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members, especially at the exclusive content level at above on YouTube channel. Okay, so Night Panther says, will Tesla have regional robotaxi service, say from Phoenix to Tucson and back? I will enter my Cybertruck into that service. I would like a Cyberlander camper in the bed of my personal Cybertruck. Do you know what that is? $45,000. Okay. Yes, I expect Tesla to have intercity robotaxi service. I think that's likely to happen at some point, especially with the coming robotaxi. And that's sort of what I have in mind for my Podcar robotaxi, that it would make sense for a vehicle with some range to be able to do that. I think more you'll see intercity travel be by Hyperloop or Boring Loop for cities that are reasonably close to each other. And Cybertruck, I think Cybertruck's role in a robotaxi network will be a specific role. Like just people going from point A to point B are not going to need a Cybertruck, but people who need to make a Home Depot run or people who need to tow something are going to like Cybertruck for that purpose. Cyberlander, I know what Cyberlander is. I don't think Cyberlander, like from what I see, I would not buy a Cyberlander. I think Cyberlander will take up too much space in the bed of the truck. And then where are you keeping your stuff? I don't see how that works. I also think it doesn't create that much space for you. I think there's going to be better solutions. And frankly, I think you might as well just tow a trailer. I think that if you have a Cybertruck with enough range and you have an efficient trailer, then it will probably be better than Cyberlander by far and might even cost less. Hi, Alexandra. Okay, so covering that, now I want to dive into the main topic of this video. Are you ready? Let's go. Which is napkin math for Robotaxi. I did a napkin math video for the battery revenue model. I wanted to redo that. I have this model for Robotaxi. I have another one for Bot coming. I have one for Boring Company coming. I'm probably going to do one for Neuralink. I'm probably going to do one for Starlink, but right now we're on Tesla. So imagine that Tesla has a fleet of its own robotaxis, of 10 million robotaxis, what Elon Musk talked about at Autonomy Day. And this could be 2026, 2027. It's probably not before 2026. Outside chances 2025, but more likely 2026, 2027. You could get there, and maybe it's 2030. So the typical robotaxi in Tesla's fleet would operate 18 hours a day. There's going to be a period of time when the robotaxi network is starting that there aren't enough robotaxis to serve anyone, and demand is effectively large. And then demand for rides like this is pretty much concentrated between 6 a.m. and midnight, which is an 18-hour span. So if you figure that the average robotaxi does 18 hours a day at 20 miles an hour, I think these are conservative numbers. You'd probably be able to get 19 hours a day in, and some travel in cities would be limited to 20 miles an hour or so average speed, but some other travel would be faster. 360 miles a day, 18 times 20 is 360. Figure 200 of those miles are paid. You could argue 180. I think that Tesla's robotaxi network will be well optimized, and you'll get more than half of the miles paid. They'll be able to choose where to send the robotaxi so that it's not wasting as much time between trips. And it's probably a linear programming problem, but they'll figure that out. Maybe they'll use the karma car algorithm. I don't know. 300 days a year. Obviously, you'd like to see 365 days a year, but assume that the vehicles miss some days. And again, I think this is conservative. You'll probably get more than 300 days a year out of your robotaxi. That's 60,000 paid miles out of the 108,000 total miles. Okay, so that's step one in the napkin math. You've got 60,000 paid miles a year for each robotaxi with 108,000 total miles. 60,000 paid miles, 108,000 total miles. Figure this is until you've really saturated the market for robotaxi, and 10 million robotaxis will not do it. You've got revenue of $1.50 per mile, which is significantly less than what Uber charges, and significantly more than the long-term goal of getting robo-taxis down to 25 cents a mile that ARK Invest talks about. When you get further into the future, farther into the future, further in the future, when you get further in the future, you could see robo-taxis, 100 million robo-taxis. At some point, you're going to drive the price of a robo-taxi ride down, but it's going to be a while before we get there. So you start at $1.50 a mile, and you figure the cost is 15 cents a mile. That's probably, again, conservative. I think right now the cost of a brand new Model 3, or this is Tesla's cost, right? Tesla builds a Model 3 or Model Y. Their cost without tacking on the profit that they get from selling the car to you, and then the cost of the energy and the cost of operating it and everything. In 2018 or 19, Elon was saying the cost of a Model 3 was around 18 cents a mile. I think they're going to I think they've already driven the cost of a Model 3 or Model Y down to 15 cents a mile. The next generation vehicle, the Robotaxi that they've talked about, my hunch is that's going to be significantly less than 15 cents a mile. They may get down to 10 cents a mile or less. I'm not sure what their model is. My goal for my Podcar Robotaxi is to get the cost down to a penny a mile so that you can make money at a nickel a mile. You charge zero, if it costs the owner $0.01 per mile, 1 penny per mile, and you charge $0.05 per mile or 5 cents or, a nickel, then I think you can still make a profit at that level. And I think the future of the Robotaxi network is very, very low-cost vehicles that are very, very efficient. But I don't think we're anywhere close to that with Tesla. So I think this is a reasonable way of looking at it. If you figure $1.50 a mile times 60,000 paid miles, that's $90,000 in revenue, 108,000 total miles driven at 15 cents a mile, $16,000 of cost. That's a gross profit per vehicle of $74,000. Let's say that again. It's a gross profit per vehicle of $74,000. Hey, Howard Alexander, Night Panther in the room, in the chat. Thank you for participating. Thanks to all my supporters for watching. Thanks to everybody for watching. So we're at $74,000 per Robotaxi. And remember, there's 10 million Robotaxis. So if you have $74,000 per Robotaxi and you've got 10 million Robotaxis, then you're making $740 billion in gross profit, which roughly is going to translate to $500 billion in net profit. You could say it's $600 billion gross profit, $400 billion net profit, but you're getting the idea here. $500 billion in net profit. This year, I think Tesla is looking at $12 billion in net profit, $15 billion in net profit. So this is a little bit higher than $15 billion in net profit. We just did 322 in the first quarter, which would work out to 12. I think we're going to still see growth, so we're going to get to $15 billion. $3.22 a share, which is about $3 billion in net profit for the first quarter. So we're heading towards, I think, a $15 billion year in 2022. And 2023, I think we're heading to over $30 billion in net profit. We're talking 27, 28, maybe 2027, 2028, we could be talking about $500 billion in net profit. With Robotaxi, this is leaving out Tesla Energy. This is leaving out if they continue to sell cars and how much money they make selling cars. This is leaving out solar. This is leaving out Megapack Powerwall. This is leaving out Bot. Okay, $500 billion in net profit from 10 million Robotaxis. That's it. And you can quibble with numbers here and there. Maybe you take it down to $300 billion in net profit, but this is just giving you a sense of where it can go. Andrea Parker says they could target people who are elderly and disabled first to help society and expand from there. I don't think so. I mean, they could. I think the answer is that they're going to target the same people that Uber and Lyft are currently serving now. That there are people right now who are riding Uber and Lyft and they're paying $2.50 a mile or $3 a mile or more. And they're going to say, hey, we can serve these people for $1.50 a mile. And anyone who's riding Uber and Lyft is going to say, why would I ride an Uber and Lyft for $2.50 when I can ride this for $1.50? Melody of 1974 says, I haven't watched the napkin math video yet. Did you talk about who or how or who will keep them clean? So right now I'm doing the video. Let me just go back a step to address that question. I've got cost at 15 cents a mile. The cost of 15 cents a mile includes the all-in cost. That's everything. I think that you will see the cost be lower than that with the next generation Robotaxi. I think you're going to see Tesla superchargers. There'll be employees working at the superchargers who will check the vehicles and clean them and inspect them. I think they might partner with Hertz. Hertz is going to have 100,000 plus Tesla Model 3s or Model Ys. I think Tesla might partner with Hertz, and Hertz already does this, right? A rental car comes in, they check it out, and they give it to the next customer. So they already sort of have that operation lined up. That's why I think the partnership with the deal with Hertz might mean more for a Robotaxi future. So I think that that's going to come together. But I think the cost, I think if the vehicle drives 300 miles a day or 360 miles a day, and it generates, what was that number? 360 miles times $1.50. You're talking about a lot of money. The cost of having somebody take a quick look at the vehicle to see whether it's clean or not, and to make sure it's clean is fairly small, especially if you have dedicated staff that you're not tipping them and they're working consistently. You're going to get there. Mark P says, hard to beat my $32 a month. Is that what you pay for a car, Mark? Okay, so we got $500 billion in net profit. Getting back to this. Net profit, $500 billion. If you assume a PE ratio of 30, which is very, very low for a company that's growing fast. That's absurdly low. That's roughly Apple's PE ratio before the recent market dip. I don't know what Apple's PE ratio is now, but it's been hovering around 30 for a while. Amazon's PE ratio has been 60 or 70. Tesla's growing faster than Amazon. The PE ratio, and at 10 million robotaxis, the potential for growth is still huge. So a PE ratio of 30 is low, but even with that, you get a market cap of $15 trillion, and Tesla's roughly $15,000 a share. Shah Vivek says, how many years does a typical robotaxi vehicle last? The expectation is that the vehicles will last 1 million miles, which is about 10 years. So, it's going to cost $20,000 to build the next generation robotaxi. It's going to last 10 years. So the amortization of a $20,000 vehicle over 1 million miles ends up being very low on a per mile basis. That's about 2 cents a mile. That's about 2 cents out of the 15 cents a mile we've been talking about. And if they use lithium iron phosphate batteries that tend to last longer, if they design the vehicle right, maybe they get 2 million miles out of it. And now you're down to a penny a mile for amortization. You're maybe a penny or two a mile for electricity. Tires are, maybe a penny or two a mile. There's a lot of different things you can do to drive the cost per mile down. And I think that's what they explicitly said the goal was during the earnings call. Drive the cost per mile down of a robotaxi ride. Melody says, I think interior will last 3 to 5 years, swapped out, and the vehicle last over 1 million miles. There's going to be some maintenance over the course of the 10 years the vehicle runs. But when you amortize that maintenance cost over the life of the vehicle, it just ends up being fairly small, and it's easy to keep that within the 15 cents a mile or even 10 cents a mile that we're talking about. 100 million robotaxis. Now, so what we did before was we had 10 million robotaxis, and I got you to $500 billion in net profit and a market cap of $15 trillion and $15,000 a share. Go into the future. Let's say we get to 2030, 2031, 2032, and Tesla has deployed 100 million robotaxis in its fleet. I'm not saying it's going to happen this way. I'm just saying this is a way it could happen, is that Tesla builds a fleet of 100 million robotaxis, not just in the US, it's the United States, it's China, it's Western Europe. They're making $30,000 gross profit each instead of $74,000. So the price per mile has come down significantly from that $1.50 a mile to less than 75 cents a mile. Once you drop to 70 cents a mile in the United States and probably Western Europe, you're getting lower than the cost of vehicle ownership. And you get a large portion of the population starts to shift from owning a vehicle to just riding in robotaxis. You're saving a lot of people money. So the market really grows. And keep in mind the world has 2 billion vehicles. 100 million robotaxis times, let's say they're 5 times as useful, you're still only a quarter of the way into the global fleet. So there's room here for growth beyond 100 million robotaxis. But you can imagine here you're at $30,000 gross profit each, 100 million robotaxis. That's $3 trillion in gross profit. Call that $2 trillion in net profit. Do you see where we're going here? Right now, we're at maybe 15 billion in net profit for the year 2022. 10x that would be 150 billion. 10x that would be 1.5 trillion. And you can see where in 2030 we're more than 100x where Tesla is now in terms of net profit. Okay, so take that net profit, $2 trillion net profit. If the PE ratio is only 20, you get a $40 trillion market cap and Tesla's $40,000 a share. A PE ratio of 20 is absurdly low. And again, this leaves out Bot. This leaves out Megapack. This leaves out Powerwall. This leaves out the potential for Tesla to continue to sell vehicles. This leaves out Tesla selling AI training services. Eric M. says the number of robotaxis seems orders of magnitude too high. There are only over 47,000 taxi drivers currently employed in the US. There are millions of Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. I don't know where you're getting your number for taxi drivers, but there's millions of Uber and Lyft drivers, and it's not just the United States, it's around the world. We're talking about the US, Western Europe, China, probably Japan, probably Australia. Australia is a small country, so it doesn't matter that much. North America, US and Canada, China, Japan, Western Europe, other countries. You know, price will be lower in some places and higher in other places, but this is not crazy. 100 million robo-taxis times 5, if they do 5 times as much work as a regular car, you get there. And if they drive the price down below the cost of owning a car, at a certain point, you start to increase the amount of vehicle traffic. The global demand for trips goes up because the cost of taking those trips goes down. Not just the monetary cost, but sort of the work that an owner of a vehicle has to put in. You never take your car to get tires changed again. You're never shopping for car insurance. You don't have to go to the DMV to register your vehicle, change title. You never have to sell a car. You never have to buy a car. All the things that go along, getting an oil change or, you know, whatever, change the windshield wipers, all these things are taken care of by the people running the robotaxi fleet. And you just press a button on your phone and a vehicle shows up to take you a ride a vehicle shows up and takes you to a ride somewhere. That's it. So you can easily see a PE ratio of 30. That would take you to $60,000 a share. You can tweak these numbers and say maybe $30,000 a vehicle is low. Maybe prices are going to go up or stay flat rather than down. And maybe it's $50,000 a vehicle in gross profit for the year instead of $30,000. And if you tweak these numbers, if you just tweak these numbers a little, let's go back to the previous. They got $30,000 in gross profit each, right? What if it was $40,000 or $50,000? Right? If it's $50,000, then you got $5 trillion in gross profit. You got $3.5 trillion in net profit. If you got $3.5 trillion in net profit and you got a PE ratio of 30, you're at like $100 trillion. You're at $100,000 a share. You can get. I didn't push this one, right? If I wanted to play, I could push this to 100. You can. This is the beautiful thing about napkin math. You can just tweak it a little bit, and you can go from $40,000 a share to $100,000 a share. And just to be clear, we're less than $1,000 a share right now. Okay. I am essentially fully invested in Tesla. I have a tiny bit of investment in other things, and I have some equity in a house, and I own my car, right? And I own a few other things. But I'm like 90% Tesla in my IRAs. I have some cash lying around. You have a few gold coins or whatever, but I'm pretty much all in on Tesla stock. And you can see where if you have $100,000 in Tesla stock now, and yes, I have more than that, but if you have $100,000 in Tesla stock now at less than $1,000 a share, if it's going to 40x, you got $4 million. If it's going to 100x, you got $10 million. Shah Vivek says, I can see governments taxing the hell out of robotaxi services, $2,000 a pop for yearly registration and such, playing the devil's advocate here. Yeah, no, I think we can all expect. Listen, first of all, let's be clear about what this means for Tesla. Okay, what this means for, and this brings us to what are the questions and criticisms and so on. So I'll go with Shah's question first. I think you're absolutely correct that the greatest threat to Tesla's success is government. And to be clear, what Tesla's trying to do is make life better for humans. Okay, it's trying to lower our transportation costs. It's trying to clean our air. It's trying to increase our traffic safety. And I think what Vivek's saying is that governments want to discourage that. Right, Vivek? Right? Governments want to discourage Tesla from lowering the cost of transportation, from cleaning the air, from reducing CO2 emissions, from making the road safer. What you're saying is government wants to stop that, right? When you tax something, you're trying to slow it down. You're trying to stop it. Eric M says, combined, there are likely 2 million Uber and Lyft drivers in the U.S. Okay, Eric, you're still limiting yourself to the U.S. It's the U.S., Europe, China, Japan. It's a much larger, and beyond that, there's other countries that Uber and Lyft will operate or robotaxis will operate in. You're really cabining it in. For some reason, you're stuck on the United States when this is not a United States thing. Tesla operates in China. Tesla operates in Europe. Tesla operates in Japan. Tesla operates in Australia. It's bigger than the United States. Tesla operates in Canada. Open your mind. Free your mind. And, you know, you have to understand that if you get to the point where you drive the price of a ride down low enough, then people decide to stop owning vehicles. Not you, maybe. Not me, maybe. But the average individual who spends $10,000 a year in their car and learns, wait a minute, if I just ride the Robotaxi network, I save $5,000 a car. I never have to walk to my car in the rain because the Robotaxi will pick me up at the front door. I never have to find my car. I never have to clean the snow off my car. I never have to wash my car. I never have to change windshield wipers. I never have to, all the things that go along with owning a car. If you can get rid of all those hassles and save money, a lot of people are going to make that choice. Maybe not you. Probably not me. I'm probably going to keep a car. I'm not poor. But the average middle-class person has nearly zero net worth and struggles to pay their bills. Right? And if you can save them $5,000 a year and save them time and hassle, a lot of people are going to switch. People already choose to ride Uber even though it's significantly more expensive than owning a car. So that's where it's going. Okay, so questions and criticism. What if Tesla underperforms? Certainly possible. You know, greatest example is maybe they never succeed on delivering FSD and Robotaxi. I can tell you I'm driving FSD beta on a daily basis. Well, to be clear, I don't drive every day, but almost every, well, I drive to the gym every day. And I, generally speaking, have FSD beta drive me to and from the gym, with some exceptions. It's good. It's getting real good. It's not there. I'm not saying it's there. I'm not saying it's ready to be Robotaxi. It's getting really good. It's like it's annoying that it's slow, but safety is getting really good. Lane choices are not always great. Navigation's not always great, but they're not like fatal things. And we're going to get these things resolved in the next year or two, and you're going to see the Robotaxi network start. Once the Robotaxi network starts, the game just changes. My nephews do not want to get their licenses or drive. Perfect customers for Robotaxi. Yeah, there's a lot of young people who don't want to get their driver's licenses. My 17-year-old has her driver's license. She has friends who haven't bothered. It's getting pretty common for 16, 17-year-olds. If they don't drive a lot of miles, it's probably more cost-effective for them to ride in a Robotaxi than to drive. But, I mean, to ride in an Uber or Lyft. You know, if they go 1,000 miles a year and you figure that's $2.50 a mile, is $2,500, where a lot of people are paying $4,000 for the car insurance for the kid that drive a car. So it can get really expensive really fast. Depends on the kid, depends on where you live, but you can, you know, the cost of the kid driving a car can be really, really high. Especially a young boy, if he's had one accident or something like that, it goes crazy. What about the competition? Okay, there's no competition. This is a question that I get all the time about Tesla. The competition is coming, yada, yada, yada. Where? Where are they? Where's the competition? Who's got a fleet of millions of vehicles sending data back to their home office to train their self-driving network? No one's doing it. No one's close. Comma.ai is the only one that's anywhere close, and they're like way, way behind. Way behind. 6 years since SpaceX landed its first orbital rocket booster, no one else has even tried yet to propulsively land an orbital rocket booster. Rocket Lab will probably do it in a year or so. And by the time Rocket Lab gets there, SpaceX will be flying Starship. By the time somebody else starts trying to do a Robotaxi network, Tesla's Robotaxi network is going to be up and running, and it's going to be sort of like, well, how much do you have to invest to get your Robotaxi software up to competitive at all with where Tesla is today? And by the time you get there, Tesla will be more advanced. Really, really going to be tough to compete with that. I think it's more likely that Tesla says, you know what, we're going to partner with some fleet operators like Hertz, and we're going to share some revenue. And, you know, individuals who own their own vehicles, they're going to share revenue with you. But I'm not even including that revenue in the model when I say 10 million Robotaxis. Tesla could have 10 million Robotaxis and still have partners where they get less revenue per vehicle, but they get, you know, they don't have to do the maintenance either. You know, you're doing the work and they're getting 30% of the revenue. There's a lot of ways that could work. One of the most common criticisms I get is if Tesla reaches a market cap of $40 trillion, well, that's bigger than US GDP. So what? US GDP, Tesla is a global company, and GDP maps to profit, not to GDP maps to profit, not to market cap. Market cap maps to wealth. And if Tesla has a net profit of, I think what I had was there like 500 billion, that's nowhere close to GDP. And GDP is going to grow. Tesla doing this, the Robotaxi network, is going to make the simulation more efficient. It's going to make the economy more efficient, and you'll see more good stuff. Shah says, I'm not sure Pierre Farragut, a massive Tesla bull, is vehemently against prospects of Robotaxi. Do you know? I I don't know what I follow Pierre Ferragu, but I haven't noticed what his position. I don't remember what his position is on Robotaxi. Number 4, what if prices fall? We're not seeing that. I mean, what we're seeing is inflation. Things are getting more expensive. You know, inflation or deflation or whatever you want to call it, that those are people really focus on the macro stuff, and I'm more focused on the micro stuff. Can they get it working? Can they manufacture vehicles? Can they deliver? Are they planning ahead for the future? Do they have their supply chain locked down? You know, those are the challenges that Tesla faces. Prices go up, prices go down, not a big deal. Same thing with Tesla stock, by the way. Stock fell, I don't know, into the 800s this week. I don't know what, I think it's insane that the stock is that low. I don't have any free cash to buy more stock. I mean, last time I bought was 741, so I'm still up on that one. I think one time I bought around 1,000. But most of my stock I bought much lower. And, you know, if inflation, when inflation would have, for prices to fall, inflation would have to end. So I don't see what's going to stop inflation right now. I think the bigger problem is if inflation wrecks the economy. That's a concern. But that's a concern for everything. There's no good investment if we wreck the economy. So hopefully we're going to stop wrecking the economy and give ourselves a shot. What are you smoking? Well, that's my joke, is mathawana. I don't smoke marijuana. I'm not recommending marijuana. I'm recommending people embrace mathematics. So, and I also recommend people embrace the t-shirts. There's a mathawana t-shirt on elonbits.com. Shaw, I can't watch a video while I'm live streaming. Melody says, I think teaming up with Hertz, Avis, or whoever is a great thought. I would love to go on vacation and not worry about driving in a city I don't know. That's the future. I mean, already when I go to a city I don't know, I just use Uber and Lyft. I don't rent cars anymore. I rented a car when I went to Brownsville with Ellie. When I went to Starbase with Ellie in space, I rented a BMW because it wasn't viable. We were doing a lot of driving because you go from South Padre Island to Starbase, it's a long trip. And that ended up being more sensible to rent a car. But by and large, for most things you're going to do, Robotaxi is going to drive down the price to the point where it's not going to make sense to rent a car. And the rental car business will die, but companies like Hertz, who are forward thinking, are going to acquire a bunch of Teslas so they can participate as a fleet manager in the Robotaxi network. Shah, I'm not going to see that. I don't even know if it preserves the chat on the video. So if you want to post that as a comment on the video, I'm more likely to see it, or email it to me, wredlick@gmail.com. But it's not, I don't really need you to send it to me. I mean, I have my own opinion about Robotaxi. Pierre has his opinion about Robotaxi. I either agree with him or I don't, but I don't. You can't expect me to agree with everybody. I'm doing a different approach. People like Pierre Ferragu do complex models. I'm just doing napkin math here. So but anyway, what am I smoking? I'm smoking marijuana. You just saw the simple math behind the Robotaxi model and how it generates. It can get Tesla stock up to $40,000, $15,000 a share, $40,000 a share. If you stretch it, you can get it to $100,000 a share. Not financial advice, but I own a lot of Tesla stock, and I think that might be a good idea. And it's cheap right now. I mean, it's bargain pricing. I do not understand. You know, people are concerned. Oh, the stock fell. Well, you know, I wasn't planning on selling, so I don't really care what the stock is right now. I care what the stock is when I'm going to sell, and I'm not selling for a while. I'd like to see the stock go up, but I just don't obsess about it. I think the stock is worth more than the cash. Tesla is a real asset, produces real value. The green paper doesn't produce any value, right? What does the green paper do? Nothing. So it's a medium of exchange. Tesla stock is a representation of something that is growing. Okay, so that's the napkin math model for Robotaxi. I'm going to be doing a bot model. I'm going to be doing a boring company model. I might do a Starlink model, but let's move on. I just want to cover some news about Tesla and other things for the week that we just saw. Earl of Frunk Puppy. Earl made some tweet about Elon used to be people used to call him a left-wing liberal who made cars in California that don't work in the real world, and the right wing hated him. And now all of a sudden the left wing hates him and the right wing loves him. Mitch, I'll come to your point in a second. Tesla owners of Silicon Valley, I think that is, asked Elon when is FSD beta update coming. And Elon said update probably goes to wide release next week, which would be this coming week. So I think we can assume it's a week later than that. And this is a big update. And Elon explained a little bit more about that update, I think, in a previous tweet. Next beta release has many improvements, especially for complex left turns and heavy traffic. It's going to be interesting to see what that means. Complex Left Turns, if you watch Chuck Cook's channel, he has a particular, what's called a unprotected left turn that he makes into traffic on roads where on a road where there's a divided highway and vehicles are coming, you're here and vehicles are coming this way fast and vehicles are going that way fast. It's a pretty hard left turn for a human when there's, a lot of traffic going on. And FSD Beta has struggled with that for a long time. I think Elon's saying it's going to get better. I have some complex left turns in some of my regular driving. We'll see. It's hard to judge it until we read the release notes and then we drive it. But I'm excited about that. All right, Mitch says, issue is not the Tesla stock price, but the very real risk of the U.S. dollar being hyperinflated to oblivion. Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern about the larger situation we have in the world is hyperinflation. I've been worried about hyperinflation since around 2012, 2013. I've been speaking out, expressing concerns about hyperinflation because governments have been printing money since government really started printing money heavily in 2008-ish when we had the financial crisis under Bush Light, and Obama continued it, and the Federal Reserve has been supporting. And then when we hit COVID in 2020, all of a sudden they basically printed 4 times as much money in the last 2 years as existed 2 years ago. We had the money supply, the M1 was $4 trillion to the end of 2019, early 2020, and then they printed $16 trillion in money. I don't think you can do that without creating a problem. There's plenty of people in economics who think I'm wrong about this, and it's okay. I think there has to be a consequence to that. And I think hyperinflation is a serious risk, and I think other countries have been printing money too. In the past, you would have like a hyperinflation because one country printed money, and they had a hyperinflation in their own country. It seems like a lot of countries are printing money now. So we haven't really seen a global hyperinflation before, and I think that may be coming. So I worry about that. And then the question is, where's the safe place to put your money? And there isn't one. But I think a thriving company that manages issues as well as Tesla does is a pretty good bet. C-Biggs tweeted a short video to Elon. Can we get the Tesla software to better recognize horses at the drive-thru at Whataburger? I think he was more joking than anything else. Elon says the car knows that something is there, just doesn't know that they're horses yet, but it will. Dogs, cats, and many other animals will be recognized. From what I can see on my FSD beta user interface, I think that the car does sometimes recognize dogs. I feel like I've seen a human walking a dog, and I've seen some sort of blip next to the human that looked vaguely like a dog. So, Tony Sieben, ARK Invest believe in hyper deflation. We're not, look, I love ARK Invest. I don't have a strong opinion about Tony Sieben one way or another. I love ARK Invest, but in theory, technology is deflationary. The practical reality is that government can offset that by printing more money. And right now, it seems like government is winning that fight. As much effort as technology makes to lower prices, government, the Federal Reserve, the central banks seem to be fighting hard to push inflation rather than deflation. Mitch is making some political comments that I don't think I want to dive into today. Although I think I would say I probably agree with you on almost everything, but I'm just not going to go there. Okay, so I think I talked about this last week's Sunday Live, but I just wanted to mention again because it was really close. There was an article about whether Neuralink could address morbid obesity, which is people being very badly overweight. Elon said that he does think it seems like that Neuralink will be able to address obesity, but in the short term, he suggested a drug. It's funny because he went on later, like today or yesterday, last night he was trash talking like a couple of drugs. So James W. Law asked any hope for curing tinnitus or tinnitus, and Elon said definitely might be less than 5 years away. As current, this is big, okay? As current version Neuralinks are semi-generalized neural read-write devices with about 1,000 electrodes, and tinnitus probably needs less than 1,000. But future generation Neuralinks will increase electrode count by many orders of magnitude. Okay, 1 order of magnitude would be 10x, 2 orders of magnitude would be 100x, 3 orders of magnitude would be 1,000x. Many would usually be more than 3. At least more than 3, so that would be 4. That would be 10,000x. That would be going from 1,000 electrodes to 10 million electrodes. That's a very capable device. Who knows how successful that'll be. Pranay Pathole said Elon, instead of inserting the Neuralink chip versus by a V2 robot, inserting this, how close is it to being as simple as LASIK in the procedure so far? And Elon said getting there. So the goal is to get it to where putting a Neuralink implant in costs about the same as doing a LASIK procedure, which is, I don't know, $5,000. So that's pretty cool. I want to talk about Lucid Motors for a second. Lucid's, let's see. First here, Lucid will do a earnings call and report their first quarter results on May 5th, which is this coming week, 4 days from today. I might live stream that. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm definitely going to cover that. Maybe I'll just do a live stream after they're done. I'll figure it out. I don't think I'll live stream during. I think I might do a video before and a video after just to cover what's going on with Lucid. I continue to think that Lucid is not succeeding. I often use the word fraud. We'll see how bad they are. This is an example of the what are you doing? Lucid announced its deal for purchase of up to, the key words here are up to 100,000 electric vehicles. As I read the plan that's in that article, in that press release, it really tops out at 70,000, and it's probably more like 60,000 maximum. And the minimum is probably less than 40,000 vehicles. And this is a company that says, and that's over a 10-year span. This is a company that said that in 2026 they would sell 250,000 vehicles. So why does this matter? You're going to sell 6,000 vehicles or 7,000 vehicles to the Saudi government. This is a deal where they're supposed to sell vehicles to the Saudi government. You're going to sell 7,000 vehicles to the Saudi government in 2026. You are already going to sell 250,000 cars. 7,000 is a drop in the bucket. Why is this a big deal? Why are you making a big deal out of this? I don't think that's a sign of strength. I think they look for any, and why are the Saudis doing that? They're just trying to keep their company, their botched EV company afloat. Somebody pointed me this. One of my, I think it was one of my Patreon supporters pointed me this. Lucid CEO made over $260 million in performance-based awards in 2021, one of the largest compensation packages paid to any executive last year. $260 million in performance-based awards last year, just before the EV startup shares plunged by 2/3. Okay. What's going to happen is on Thursday? It's Wednesday or Thursday. 5th. I think that's Thursday. I think Thursday they report their earnings, and we'll see where they are. We'll see how many cars they've delivered. They kind of downplayed their prospects for delivering vehicles in Q1. This is for Q1, by the way. So the first 3 months of the year, they're not going to report it until into May. I think that's getting better. Last time, I think it was a month and a half. This time it's, less than a month and a half. So they're getting closer to a reasonable time frame. I suspect that they're not going to deliver well. I don't know if they've started spending more money. They're not going to be taking in a lot of revenue. I think it's going to be an ugly quarter. But they're going to spin it. They're the masters of spinning their results. So we'll see what they do. So that's coming Thursday this week. And then another thing that's coming up is, I think it's on Wednesday, I'm going to record an interview with Galliano Tiramani of Boxabl. Boxabl is doing a funding round. Boxabl is a company that makes, they call them accessory dwelling units. It's basically a 400 to 800 square foot home that they build in a factory, fold up, stick it on a truck, and bring it out to your home site, and you drop it by crane in your backyard. And there's a bunch of other things that they do. And the story they tell is it's $50,000 for the home. The reality is it's probably more than $100,000 when you add in the cost of installing it in the backyard and getting permits and hooking up plumbing. And I don't know if appliances are included. It's probably, significantly more than $50,000. It's probably more than $100,000 when all is said and done. $120,000, $150,000. Which in the California market on a dollars per square foot basis, I guess that's not crazy. But somehow they are doing funding, and they think that they're going to get, they're valuing the company at $3 billion, and people are actually buying stock in this. And I'm trying to figure out how you can justify a $3 billion valuation with what they're doing. And I'm going to be asking Galliano Tiramani that I'll be interviewing him on Wednesday, and the video will probably be public on Friday. Maybe. I don't see how it works. I like Boxabl. I think it's an interesting concept. I want them to succeed. I just have this feeling that something isn't right. And I've got a bunch of people just to be clear, I don't have any evidence that it's not right. only evidence I have is positive. And I've been contacted by a few people who say they're investors in Arcimoto and they have inside information and things are going great. And it's to the point where I think they're scamming me, that they're put up to say that. Like, I'm not saying they are. I'm just like this feeling like, why are these people reaching out to me and pushing Boxabl? You know, I don't make a lot of videos about Boxabl. Do they know that I'm interviewing Galliano Tiramani? Did he tell them to contact me? You know, it's, and I'm probably being paranoid, and this probably isn't true. But I'm worried that a lot of investors, just like with Lucid, I get worried that a lot of investors might be investing unwisely. That there's better places you can put your money, but I want to give Galliano a shot to explain this. I did an interview with him last time. I thought the interview went well. He's an impressive guy. I like him. He's likable. Elon said good things about what they're doing. So maybe I'm wrong. Like, and I'm not saying I know. Okay, like with Lucid, I'm convinced, right? I'm strongly convinced that Lucid's a fraud. That Lucid cannot succeed. Yes, they've made some cars. Yes, they've delivered some cars. They're spending $2 million plus to deliver a car for $200,000. They're losing so much money on every car that they can't afford to make cars because they lose too much money, and they don't have enough of a cash pile. Melody says Lucid doesn't have a chip shortage issue, but a demand issue. No, they have a variety of supply chain issues as well. I think that Lucid does not have a demand issue right now. They cannot make enough cars to satisfy the demand they have right now, but they have a demand issue. If they succeed in producing cars at the scale they want to, then they're going to have a demand issue. That's the problem. So, all right, 45 minutes in. I don't see that. That's the story. I don't have anything else to talk about. I would encourage you to. I just did a video yesterday on YouTube. Ask Me Anything. I would encourage you to check that video out. For support, oh, just really quick again, check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Support this channel on locals. If you support the channel on locals, you get access to some supporter-only content. You get to comment in the chat. You get to comment on the posts. I personally think this is a great platform. I understand some people don't love the video, but I think the video works well enough anyway. And then I'm going to replay this video on YouTube anyway with some edits to clean it up a little bit. I don't think I have a lot to edit today. It'll probably be up pretty quick. And but support the channel on local, support the channel on Patreon, support the channel as a YouTube channel member, exclusive content level. A couple other things I'm thinking about, starting up 2 different channels. Like, I have time. I got one guy who wants me to write a book with him about how Elon's going to be the world's first trillionaire. I'm talking to that guy next week. I've got my own book that I want to write about Elon. I've got idea for making a dating channel. I've got an idea for making a channel. I do Qigong. I learned it from a teacher from China. He's disappeared, and there's 2 sets of forms in particular that I learned from him that I'm worried are going to disappear off the face of the earth. And I thought maybe if I make YouTube videos about them, maybe that art, that medical healing, meditative stretching, strengthening exercise that I do will survive and grow. So I might do that. I really need to focus on making more videos on YouTube and on this platform. So a lot of things swirling through my head, but that's all going on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Support this channel on Patreon. Support this channel on local. Support this channel on YouTube. As a YouTube channel member. Check out my other videos. For those of you on YouTube, check out my other videos. They'll be up here. And thank you so much for watching.